So this is just my personal eczema case, and I cannot stress enough how varied case to cases are, and this is just like why I think my case was approved. So I was diagnosed with pretty severe eczema at the age of 1 or 2, and it was all over the creases of my elbows, the creases of my knees, all over my face. It was pretty bad. And I did not stop getting medicine, steroid medicine, until the age of 13. So right now I'm 18 and I only have it very mildly right here, a little bit right here, like it's pretty hard to see, and a little bit right here, and I don't have it anywhere right here. So again, I don't have it that much anymore. So when I was looking to enlist in the Army, I did a bunch of research online and found that there's like an after the age of 8 rule, and that can get you automatically disqualified. So I was pretty worried about that. So I talked to my recruiter and I'm like, hey, I have eczema. Should I even mention this? Should we keep this on the DL? Because I don't want to be disqualified. And at first he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. But eventually we do decide to put it down because I don't want to be disqualified. I mean, I don't want to be dishonorably discharged if they do find out, because that would fucking suck. So before I go to MEPS, he goes through this giant, like, long-ass list of medical stuff, and he goes through all my details of my eczema, and he even goes to my pediatrician and gets all the documentation from them and brings it back. He brings it to the MEPS area. So it ends up that I do need a waiver to go to MEPS, and that waiver takes about 3 weeks. And everyone was celebrating because they thought that I was actually approved overall, but I wasn't. I was just approved to go to MEPS, and that sucked. So anyway, I go to MEPS, and I go through the ears, the eyes, and the blood test. And after the blood test, they tell me to go talk to a doctor. And that doctor does see that. Okay, so before we do any of this eyes, ears, and blood stuff, we have to write down personally what medical conditions we think need to be written down. So of course I write down my eczema. So after I get my blood taken, I go to that doctor, and that doctor sees that I wrote down eczema, and he goes through my list that the recruiter has given him, and he sees that the recruiter also has written down eczema, and he goes through my medical records and he talks to me about it. It takes a very long time. It was super annoying, but he asked to see the creases of my elbows. He saw it wasn't there, and he so he basically saw that I didn't have eczema at all, except for on the palms of my hands, which is what I had during MEPS. So during MEPS, I only had like a very small amount, a very small and light amount on the palms of my hands. So after he sees that, he asked me a bunch of questions, and I don't really remember what, but he asked me like how much lotion do I use, and how bad does it get, and like what causes it. And mine was caused by allergies, and I had paperwork to like prove that, since I was allergic to dogs and I actually own a dog, my eczema like flares up a lot when I'm near that dog. So yes. So after we go through all that talk, he gives me a bunch of paperwork, and I have to sign it to acknowledge that I was disqualified. So I was pretty pissed off about that, but I end up, of course, getting my stuff, and he tells me to go to another doctor so I can complete my medical examination. And this next part is where I was examined with the duck walk and stuff like that. So they ask us to do these various hand exercises, and they see like the palms of they ask us to hold out the palms of our hands. And the doctor that was doing the examination didn't even notice that I had eczema on my hands. So that probably played out for me, because after I was done getting checked out with that particular doctor, I was told to go back to the other doctor, and the doctor asked if the other doctor had seen anything, and of course I said no. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but the questions that the doctor with the medical records was asking me, I try to downplay it as much as possible without lying, of course, because you don't want to lie. just kidding. You don't want to lie. Yeah. So after I was done with that, I go down to my liaison, and he tells me that that my second waiver can be approved after like 1 or 2 weeks. And of course, my waiver ends up taking 6 weeks. Yeah. So it's all very case to case. The amount of time that has passed. Shoot, I don't know if I mentioned this. I probably did. Okay, I'll mention it again. So the amount of time that had passed since my last eczema lotion medication thing was in 2011, when I was 13 or 14. So like 5 or 4 years has passed since then. That's not a lot of amount of time. Yeah. So the amount of time that had passed, the fact that my eczema was so not severe, I think it depends greatly on the amount, how great the waiver committee is feeling that day, and how lucky of a person you are. If you have any more questions, just go ahead and ask me in the comments, because I'm online all day. Yeah. So, like,